Chapter 1101. Huang Fuyu had guessed correctly. More than 9 months ago, Yichen already had the strength of a quasi-emperor. At that time, he had already upgraded the White Dragon Exterminating World, Heavenly Lightning Hellfire, Raging Flames of Spring, Killing Autumn, and Life-Snatching 10,000 to the level of Extreme Martial Arts of the second rank. The so-called Extreme Martial Arts of the second rank were not simply determined by power. It also depended on the degree of integration of the profoundness and the degree of martial arts exertion. If the two profoundness were perfectly integrated, the martial arts they carried could fully exert the power of the integrated profoundness, then it meant that your second-rank martial arts had been upgraded to the limit. Do not underestimate the extreme martial arts of the second rank. It was the key to creating a third-rank martial art. If one could not even reach the level of the extreme martial arts of the second rank, then it would never be possible to create a third-rank martial art. Even if it was created, it would be incomplete and unable to be perfected. Among the 5 extreme martial arts of the second rank, the White Dragon Exterminating World was the strongest. It was already equivalent to an ordinary third-rank martial art. It was terrifyingly powerful and had the power to destroy the world in a small area. Next, the Heavenly Lightning Hellfire, Raging Flames of Spring, Killing Autumn, and Life-Snatching 10,000 were equally powerful. The Heavenly Lightning Hellfire was superior in its attacking power. The Raging Flames of Spring could burn the enemy to ashes. The Life-Snatching 10,000 could penetrate the enemy's defense. Originally, with the strength of a quasi-emperor, one had to enter the high-level hunting battlefield. However, Yichen was not in a hurry to become a high-level member. He knew that with his strength at that time, if he entered the high-level hunting battlefield, he would only be a middle-level quasi-emperor. If he encountered a strong enemy, he would not be able to compete, so he did not challenge the God of War Pagoda and the Survival Pagoda. However, the rules of the intermediate hunting battlefield sensed that he had the strength of a quasi-emperor. After 3 warnings, he was not allowed to enter the intermediate hunting battlefield, or the rules would kill him. This was the 3rd time. Yichen, do you have the strength of a quasi-emperor? Ho Lei and the others also rushed over. Su Xiao asked curiously. Yichen knew that he could not hide it, and there was no need to hide it. He nodded and said, "Yes, 9 months ago, I already had the strength of a quasi-emperor. The rules of the hunting battlefield also warned me that this would be my last hunt in the intermediate hunting battlefield. Next time, I will go to the high-level hunting battlefield." So it's true. Su Xiao's jaw dropped. In fact, they had long suspected that Yichen had the strength of a quasi-emperor, because Yichen was much stronger than Huang Fuyu. In the entire middle-grade hunting battlefield, no one was a match for Yichen. Congratulations. Huang Fuyu let out a sigh and immediately smiled. Yichen continued, "I've already talked to Jiao. He promised to join the Frost Battle Team after I leave. With his strength, he shouldn't be a burden to you." Jiao's improvement was rather astonishing. If not for Yichen, he would be the member of the Paradise of Gods who improved the fastest. A few months ago, he had already reached the 7th level of the God of War Pagoda. According to him, his fist, palm, finger, and leg techniques had all improved greatly. His spear techniques had also caught up. Lung Fifan had joined the Flying Spirit Battle Team a long time ago, and Jiao was about to join the Frost Battle Team. These 2 teams were the teams that Yichen had been in before. Jiao! Ho Lei's eyes lit up. He was indeed reluctant to let Yichen leave. After all, with Yichen, the Frost Battle Team would be feared. However, there was no other way. If Yichen didn't leave, he would be killed by the rules. He hadn't expected Yichen to be able to persuade Jiao to join the Frost Battle Team. One had to know that Jiao was also very famous in the Paradise of Gods and had a chance of becoming a battle emperor in the future. He's too strong. This kind of strength has already surpassed the 8th level of the God of War Pagoda. He's definitely a quasi-emperor. Damn it. He clearly has the strength of a quasi-emperor, but he still stays in the middle-grade hunting battlefield. The 2 Yaksha kings, who had just escaped, stopped in their tracks. They were furious. He can only be arrogant in the middle-grade hunting battlefield. When he reaches the high-grade hunting battlefield, he still has to act like a coward. I hope he will be killed in his first hunt. That's very likely. A newly born quasi-emperor is most likely to die in the first few hunts. Let's not talk about this. We're in danger now. We have to be vigilant and endure these few days. After walking out of the hunting pagoda, Yi Chen went straight to the God of War pagoda. At the 8th level of the God of War pagoda. Boom! With a heavenly lightning earth and fire, Yi Chen killed the Yaksha king, whose skin was like a human's. In the next moment, Yi Chen arrived at the 9th level of the God of War pagoda. The 9th level's opponent was the black-robed evil king of the evil spirit race. As the guardian of the 9th level, the black-robed evil king's strength was undoubtedly very strong. He was stronger than all the other quasi-emperors. Defeating him would allow one to become a battle emperor. His strength was between a titled monarch and a peak 6th firmament king. Swish, 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 the black-robed evil king seemed to have no physical body. He could instantly turn into black smoke and instantly appear in front of Yi Chen. His palm was like an eagle's claw, and ink-like black qi coiled around it. Through the protective Zhen Yuan, Yi Chen could feel a bone-chilling cold intent pass over, numbing his nerves. Not daring to be careless, Yi Chen used the instant sword domain with all his strength, sharply reducing his opponent's attack speed. Then he slashed at that cold palm. Clang! Sparks flew, and Yi Chen retreated several steps while the black-robed evil king's body swayed. Raging fire, incinerating spring. The huge sword qi transformed into a powerful wave of fire and rushed toward the black-robed evil king. The black-robed evil king was expressionless as he clasped his hands together and separated them. The powerful wave of fire was separated from the middle, unable to injure him in the slightest. Meanwhile, his right leg was like a venomous snake as it kicked out with a black shadow. A huge pit appeared on the ground, and Yi Chen was sent flying, spurting out a mouthful of cold blood. What a frightening cold qi! If not for the protective sword intent, this kick alone would have turned Yi Chen into an ice sculpture. In Yi Chen's eyes, the black-robed evil king's figure flickered incessantly. Each time it flickered, it would expand several times. In a few moments, the black-robed evil king filled Yi Chen's vision as a black fist punched over, covering the sky. Yi Chen was hit by the fist, turning into a black shadow and collapsing. This was a shadow. In the past 3 years, Yi Chen had not only created a second transition extreme martial art, but he had also created a second transition martial art, Shadow Divine Steps. The Shadow Divine Steps contained the profound of Yin and the profound of Shadow. He had only started to comprehend the profound of Yin in the past 3 years, and he had perfected it. Combined with the profound of Shadow, he could turn himself into a shadow that was between an illusory and a real one. Not only would he be able to move at lightning speed, but he could also split himself and take a fatal blow for himself. Unknowingly, Yi Chen had appeared behind the black-robed evil king on the right. He waved his sword, and the powerful sword qi condensed into a world-destroying white dragon, rushing toward the black-robed evil king at a high speed. The black-robed evil king was stronger than Yi Chen had imagined. He stretched out his right hand, and a black whirlpool appeared in his palm as he pressed his palm against the white dragon's head. Rumble! The white dragon exploded, and the black-robed evil king was sent flying hundreds of meters away, his clothes fluttering in the wind. I didn't expect him to be this strong. He has no flaws at all. Using the 3 flowers, Yi Chen's battle power increased by several folds. He rushed forward without any hesitation. Heavenly thunder and earthly fire, burning spring fire, autumn kill, 10,000 flowers, white dragon destroying world, and moment of glory, he had performed each of them once. However, even if his battle power had doubled, he still could not do anything to the black-robed evil king. The black whirlpool on his opponent's palm could neutralize all attacks, including the white dragon destroying world. The only thing that could threaten him was moment of glory, but it was always wrong. It was as if the black-robed evil king could distort the trajectory of space and deflect his attack. Limitless evil hand. Finally, the black-robed evil king spoke for the first time. His palm turned into a hand that could cover the sky. As he pressed his palm down, the sky lost its color, the ground collapsed, and the gravity was reversed. Yichen felt as if he had become an ordinary person, and he could not free himself from the weightless environment. Sun Essence Extreme Transformation. In this life-or-death situation, Yichen didn't have the time to think too much. He performed a third transition martial art that he normally could not perform, Sun Essence Extreme Transformation. A dazzling light burst out from the dragon's spring sword, suddenly releasing a strong stream of sword chi. A huge crack appeared on the gigantic palm that had covered the entire sky. Through the crack, the clear sky poured down, bringing a small patch of light to the world. Although this sword move was extremely crude and not as powerful as a second transition martial art, the power it released was a few times more powerful than a second transition martial art. It was like a beam of sunlight at dawn, tearing apart the darkness. The power of the sky-covering hand, which had almost been split into two, had been greatly reduced. However, it didn't lose all of its power. The palm heavily pressed on the ground. With a puff, the ground on both sides of Yichen was turned into nothingness. The place where Yichen had been standing suddenly became a high ground, and an immeasurably long pillar stood high up in the abyss, seeming to be isolated from the world. Swish! Yichen's feet suddenly stepped on the pillar, and his whole body jumped up, merging with the sun in the sky. In the next second, he performed his Sun Essence Extreme Transformation again. The snow-white sword body was like a black hole, continuously absorbing the light in the world to strengthen itself. Then, he threw out a sword attack toward the black-robed evil king. The scorching sun rose from the east, and the powerful light condensed into a beam, piercing through the black-robed evil king's body. His body was like a snowman under the scorching sun, melting rapidly, and was about to disappear. Limitless 3 Tremors. The black-robed evil king raised his remaining left hand and slapped towards Yichen. Bang bang bang. Yichen's body shook and turned into nothingness. He didn't even have time to perform his immortal body. At the entrance of the God of War pagoda, Yichen walked out. Limitless 3 Tremors. Each tremor contains 3 layers of force. It's really terrifying. Yichen was amazed. He knew that if he couldn't defend or dodge the black-robed evil king's limitless 3 tremors, he wouldn't be able to pass the 9th level of the God of War pagoda unless his attack power was strong enough to kill the black-robed evil king instantly. Although he had failed, he had gained a lot this time. He could even use Sun Essence Extreme Transformation, which he couldn't use previously. The Sun Essence Extreme Transformation contained the profound truths of fire, profound truths of light, and profound truths of yang. The profound truths of light and profound truths of yang had been comprehended and perfected in the past 3 years. Yichen's soul could bear many perfected profound truths, so he didn't have to worry about not having enough profound truths. In the paradise of gods, as long as one had enough Shinbi, one could comprehend profound truths to perfection in the Profound Truths Pagoda. Of course, others were very careful when choosing profound truths, as their soul's capacity was limited. Chapter 1102. In short, the birth of the Extreme Sun Essence had increased Yichen's strength by 2-fold or 3-fold. Although the White Dragon Armageddon was stronger than a second job advancement martial art, and could barely match an ordinary third job advancement martial art, it was still inferior to the Extreme Sun Essence. Furthermore, Yichen's Extreme Sun Essence was slightly inferior to the Divine Saber King's Shadow Thunder Sky Flash Slash. There were still many aspects that needed to be perfected. After reaching the 9th level of the God of War Pagoda, the insignia on the back of Yichen's hand turned dark green. This meant that he had become a high-level member and could enjoy the highest treatment in the Paradise of Gods. Next, Yichen went to the Survival Tower. 7th level of the Survival Tower, 10,000 Shinbi reward. 8th level of the Survival Tower, 30,000 Shinbi reward. Finally, Yichen reached the 9th level of the Survival Tower, just like the God of War Pagoda. The total reward was 50,000 Shinbi, 10,000 Shinbi for the God of War Pagoda and 40,000 Shinbi for the Survival Tower. In addition to Yichen's original wealth, he had a total of 180,000 Shinbi. In the past 3 years, Yichen had earned a lot of Shinbi, but he had also spent a lot. Most of the Shinbi had been used on comprehending profound meaning, cultivating martial arts, and the Tower of Time. The reason why he had leftover was that Yichen wanted to collect 300,000 Shinbi to exchange for a low-level Heavenly King set. A Heavenly King set had at least 5 parts: armor, arm guards, leg guards, gloves, and boots. All 5 parts were Heavenly King-level artifacts. Individually, their value was not very high, but when combined, it was worth 10 or 20 times more. A low-level Heavenly King set was worth as much as a top-tier Heavenly King-level artifact, and could increase one's defense by several times. Not only that, but it could also increase one's combat power. Although it could not double or more, it was possible to increase it by 30 to 40%. Yichen already had a protective sword intent, and with the addition of a low-level Heavenly King set, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. However, it was not an easy task to collect 300,000 Shinbi. Without the profound mysteries of space, Yichen would not have been able to reach peak Quasi-Emperor strength in 5 to 6 years. This was because he did not have that many Shinbi to use for cultivation, and it was impossible for him to save up 150,000 Shinbi. It would already be pretty good if he had 10 or 20,000 Shinbi, and this was even if he lived frugally and did not spend it as he pleased. Yichen made a rough calculation. Most people would need several decades to accumulate 300,000 divine coins after they became quasi-emperors. As for stopping cultivating after becoming a quasi-emperor and saving up Shinbi, that was just neglecting the essentials. Gathering 300,000 Shinbi to exchange for a low-level Heavenly King set was to raise his power and increase his defense, but using Shinbi to cultivate was also to raise his power. There was no essential difference. To be honest, it was better to use it for cultivation, because in the process of gathering Shinbi, one could die in the hunting battlefield. Sometimes, not improving meant regressing, as others were improving. Therefore, to gather Shinbi, one could only do it slowly. One could not become malnourished for the sake of gathering Shinbi. After becoming a high-ranking member, Yichen's time had also increased. He only needed to go hunting once a year, but as no one knew that he could reach quasi-emperor strength in such a short time, no high-ranking teams had invited him. As for those high-ranking members, they were either cultivating or spending Shinbi to leave the paradise of gods. Not even a shadow of them could be seen. Yichen could only wait. If it came down to it, he could not join a team for the first time and go hunting alone. In the inn, Yichen ordered 5 bottles of lava wine and 5 bottles of icy wine, drinking them alone. These 2 types of wine were only available to high-ranking members. Yichen, can you buy me a drink? A beautiful woman in green walked over with a hint of hope on her face. Yichen raised his head. He did not know the other party. Although he was a little puzzled, he still nodded. Sure, have a seat. Yichen handed over a bottle of lava wine. Thank you. My name is Lu Mei. Lu Mei sat down with a joyful expression. Lu Mei opened the cork and drank a mouthful of wine. She said in surprise, "What wine is this? Why have I never drunk it before? No, this wine is even stronger than the ice and fire 9 heavens. The effect of tempering one's spirit body is many times stronger." Lu Mei was a mid-ranking member and had only recently reached the 7th level of the God of War pagoda. Although the ice and fire 9 heavens was expensive, she had also drunk it once. However, compared to the lava wine, the ice and fire 9 heavens paled in comparison. This is lava wine. Only high-ranking members can buy it. Yichen said. Lava wine? Only high-ranking members can buy it? Lu Mei seemed to have thought of something. Have you already become a high-ranking member? Lu Mei's heart raced and her face turned red. She came over to chat up Yichen to see if there was a chance for her to date him. Those who could enter the paradise of gods were all geniuses. They were dragons and phoenixes among men. Because of their high status, they had very high standards, especially for women. Basically, the women of the paradise of gods would rarely find life partners outside. This was because they believed that only the men of the paradise of gods were worthy of them. Those outside were all mediocre. In the hearts of the women of the paradise of gods, the most popular were naturally the 3 battle emperors, followed by the half-emperors. Apart from them, Yichen, Jiao, and Lung Fifan were also popular existences. Especially Yi Chen, his popularity was not inferior to the battle emperors. For a long time, no one had ever entered the paradise of gods with the strength of the 4th floor. Moreover, in a few short years, he had reached the 8th floor. This kind of potential was unheard of and unseen. However, today, Lu Mei discovered that everyone was still underestimating Yi Chen's potential. With Yi Chen's speed of improvement, he could easily break through to the 9th layer of life and death within 1,000 years, becoming the youngest sovereign. Looking at Lu Mei's expression, Yi Chen immediately understood. In truth, this was not the first time he had seen a woman expressing interest in him in the paradise of gods. Ice Frost battle team's Su Xiao had once hinted at him. However, Yi Chen discovered that as his realm increased and his strength increased, it was hard for him to feel anything. It was as if all his thoughts were focused on martial Dao and sword Dao. Everything else was just fleeting clouds. Su Jing and Murong Qingqing were only concerned because they had interacted with him from the very beginning. I still have something to do. You can drink this wine. I'll take my leave first. Tactfully rejecting someone didn't have to be explicit. Yi Chen believed that the other party should understand his meaning. Standing up, Yi Chen smiled and walked out of the hotel. Unknowingly, the appointed time for the high-ranking members had arrived. Thunderbolt Stadium became lively once again. This time, the one in the limelight was still White Tiger King. Myriad Arrow King had yet to appear. White Tiger King, I'll fight you. Seeing that White Tiger King had already won 5 times in a row, Sky Sundering King walked down the stage. Sky Sundering King's battle strength was more or less the same as Purple Lightning Spear King. Most importantly, Sky Sundering King believed that his technique was better than Purple Lightning Spear King's. Sky Sundering King took the lead. After a few rounds, Sky Sundering King's right arm was extremely numb. White Tiger King's balls were powerful and heavy like cannons. Every time they struck back, Sky Sundering King's right arm would suffer a great burden. I can only use this move to decide the winner. Sky Splitting Monarch held the iron rod with both hands and struck the thunderball twice in a row. One strike landed on the upper half of the thunderball and the other on the lower half of the thunderball. The thunderball emitted an electric current and shot out at a frightening speed. Moreover, this thunderball was flat, and its intense rotation gave it a frightening cutting power. Sky Sundering King's ultimate move, Thunderbolt Cut. What a powerful ultimate move! On the spectator stand, Yi Chen nodded his head. The principle behind this ultimate move of Sky Sundering King was very simple. The thunderball was imbued with 2 rotational forces, one downwards and the other upwards. Although the directions were different, the left and right directions were the same. Finally, the 2 rotational forces converged together, compressing the thunderball into a flat shape. The rotational force then increased by several folds, producing a cutting power. Oh! White Tiger King's expression turned solemn. This move was indeed not easy to receive. The thunderball was flat, reducing the point of impact, and the cutting power was also very hard to neutralize. However, this was not a problem for White Tiger King. He held the iron rod with both hands and swung it upwards, striking the flat thunderball. The thunderball paused for a moment, and in the next moment, it flew back in a parabola. The cutting power was completely neutralized. Ding! Sky Sundering King's iron rod was sent flying, smashing into the metal wall. The descending ball was very powerful, and Sky Sundering King could no longer repel it. Yi Chen, you're here? Returning to the spectator stand, Sky Sundering King noticed Yi Chen sitting in the back row. Just arrived. Yi Chen nodded his head. Sky Sundering King's gaze unintentionally swept across the back of Yi Chen's hand and exclaimed, "Inky green insignia, you've become a high-ranking member?" Sky Sundering King's voice was very loud due to his shock. Immediately, everyone in the spectator's stand looked over. It's Yi Chen. What? He's a high-ranking member. That's impossible, right? Although I don't dare to believe it, the inky green insignia on the back of his hand can't be faked. And there's no need to fake it. Genius, this is a true genius. Compared to him, we're far inferior. Previously, everyone's attention was focused on White Tiger King, but now, they were all focused on Yi Chen. Yi-Chen, you've really surprised me. Looks like my premonition was right. Sky Sundering King tried his best to calm his emotions. Where there's a will, there's a way. Everyone's fortune is different. Yi-Chen appeared very calm. Being watched by 200 pairs of eyes didn't make him feel any pressure. White Tiger King was about to speak. Yi-Chen, right? Come down and play. White Tiger King's voice resounded. Sky Sundering King smiled bitterly. Sorry, Yi-Chen. Yi-Chen's chances of winning against White Tiger King were very small. If not for him, Yi-Chen wouldn't have attracted everyone's attention. Don't worry, my hands are also itching. Yi-Chen calmly walked down the stage. You're quite famous. How about this? I'll control my cultivation base to the 5th layer and have a fair battle. White Tiger King's cultivation base was at the 6th layer. In fact, 30% of the people in God Paradise were at the 6th layer. However, he didn't want to take advantage of Yi-Chen. Yi-Chen said, no need. Controlling cultivation base would be unfair to you. Oh, is that so? White Tiger King's eyes squinted. The other party seemed very confident. Shall I go first? Yi-Chen grabbed the thunderball. Not bad. White Tiger King sucked in a deep breath and his expression became focused. A person's fame was like a tree's shadow. Although Yi-Chen's fame didn't represent his strength, he still couldn't be underestimated. Chapter 1103. Bang. The thunderbolt ball was thrown high into the air. Yi-Chen served. The ball was swift and fierce, and everyone's eyes lit up. Not bad. The White Tiger King held the metal rod, and the muscles on his right arm swelled. His arm was already as thick as a normal person's thigh, but now, it was twice as thick. Boom. The ball had just arrived when the White Tiger King smacked it back with his rod. The terrifying force caused the thunderbolt ball to distort irregularly. Just looking at it was terrifying. It's indeed much more powerful than ordinary explosive balls. No wonder it's so powerful. The explosive ball was a kind of technique, a kind of ultimate move. The White Tiger King had turned the explosive ball into his normal ball. Furthermore, it was several times more powerful than ordinary explosive balls. It was fine to fight with him for a few rounds, but after a long time, even an Iron Man could not take it. In layman's terms, the White Tiger King's attack was called overwhelming strength. To deal with such an explosive ball, one had to either counterattack with greater strength or resist with absolute technique. At the same level, pure strength was ultimately weaker than technique. The White Tiger King's ball was 80% strength and 20% technique. Yi-Chen's strength was probably only 10% or 20% of the White Tiger King's. Therefore, technique accounted for 80% or 90%. Holding the metal rod with both hands, Yi-Chen locked onto the weakest point of the thunderbolt ball and struck it. The thunderbolt ball vibrated twice before returning at an unimaginable speed. He counterattacked so easily? In the spectator seats, everyone was slightly surprised. Interesting. The White Tiger King continued to increase his strength. To him, strength was his advantage. As for technique, it was fine as long as it wasn't too weak. Boom, boom, boom. The thunderbolt ball that the White Tiger King shot was like a cannon bombardment. However, Yi-Chen was still able to steadily counterattack. He had used 2 forces on the thunderball, and each force was the 3 drive. This was an ultimate move that he had developed based on the Evil King's limitless 3 tremors on the 9th level of the God of War Pagoda. However, he was still unable to achieve the level of 3 tremors. After all, only a few months had passed. In the blink of an eye, 20 rounds had passed, and the competition between the two of them had reached its climax. The White Tiger King's brows furrowed even deeper. He was certain that Yi-Chen's combined strength was less than 20% of his. However, Yi-Chen's skills surprised him. According to the force feedback from the thunderbolt ball, he sensed that Yi-Chen's ultimate move was very similar to the Evil King's limitless triple tremors on the 9th level of the God of War Pagoda. He actually forced the black-robed Evil King to execute the 3 Sinluo tremors. His strength is not that of an ordinary quasi-emperor but a peak quasi-emperor. After another dozen or so rounds, the White Tiger King gradually felt the strain. While he was exerting pressure on Yi-Chen, Yi-Chen was also exerting pressure on him. Both sides were always on the same level. This can't go on. The White Tiger King took a deep breath, and a tiger's roar rang out from within his body. His aura rapidly swelled, causing him to grow even larger. With a swing of the cudgel, the thunderball transformed into a white tiger and dived towards Ichin. It appeared the White Tiger King's White Tiger Killing Ball. Many people couldn't help but shout out. Oh, he actually forced out the White Tiger King's White Tiger Killing Ball? Unknowingly, the 10,000 Arrow King appeared in the audience and stood side by side with the Celestial River King. The Celestial River King praised, "The new generation surpasses the old. His skills are amazing. Playing the Thunderball requires a high foundation. The White Tiger King not only has a higher cultivation realm, but his body is also a Beast King White Tiger. His basic strength can be said to be the best in the Paradise of Gods. The Sky Martial King, the Vermilion Bird King, and the Divine Saber King cannot compare to him. Therefore, if you want to beat him, you must have a high level of skill." The 10,000 Arrow King nodded and stared intently at the screen. The speed of the White Tiger Killing Ball was not very fast, but with every step it moved forward, the White Tiger Phantom became more and more real. Its imposing manner was as heavy as a mountain and as sharp as a knife, while the tiger's roar came wave after wave. This ball was not only amazing in terms of power, but also in terms of skill. In any case, the White Tiger King was the second-ranked character among the 4 great quasi-emperors. How could his skills be weak? Everyone's eyes fell on Yichin. They wanted to see how this rare genius would deal with it. Yichin spread his feet apart and kept his center of gravity low. The powerful pressure from the White Tiger Killing Ball blew his long hair into the air, just like a black flag, just like a black flame. When the White Tiger Killing Ball was less than 3 feet away from Yichin, Yichin made his move. The iron rod in his hand was like a chicken pecking rice, or like a phoenix nodding its head. 2 consecutive blows hit the forehead of the White Tiger Phantom. The White Tiger Phantom shattered with a resounding sound, and the thunderball heavily collided with the metal rod. The 2 powerful forces pressed against each other, causing the thunderball to become thinner and stick closely to the metal rod. In the next moment, the thunderball bounced back at 10 times the speed. Bang! The yellow light exploded behind the White Tiger King. The White Tiger King was dumbfounded and did not have time to react. Just by adding 1 layer of force, the power has undergone a qualitative change. Yichin was also a little surprised by the ball just now. The rod that hit the thunderball contained 2 vibrations. The first one contained 3 layers of force, and the second one contained 4 layers of force. However, the power had increased tenfold. I lost, worthy of being called the Genius Sword King. The White Tiger King took a deep look at Yichen. The Genius Sword King was Yi Chen's title, which was recognized by everyone. Now that Yi Chen had the strength of a quasi-emperor, it made the title of Genius Sword King even more legitimate. 1. The Sky-Splitting King could not recover. On the side, the Rainbow King could not help but speak up. It seems that your hunch is correct. He is indeed likely to become an unprecedented figure in the history of the Paradise of Gods. His progress is really fast. I hope he has good luck and doesn't fall prematurely. Letting out a long breath, the Sky-Splitting King said. When the White Tiger King stepped down, everyone looked at the 10,000 Arrow King. In everyone's view, only the 10,000 Arrow King could deal with Yi Chen, who had defeated the White Tiger King. It seems that you have to step down. The Celestial River King smiled at the 10,000 Arrow King. The 10,000 Arrow King replied, "If I don't step down, who can do anything to me?" Although he said that, the 10,000 Arrow King still stepped down. In addition to the 3 battle emperors, the invincible 10,000 Arrow King in the Thunderbolt Stadium also longed for a close fight. Yi Chen's appearance just satisfied his wish. No matter who won or lost, as long as it was enjoyable, it would be fine. If one was obsessed with winning or losing, they would have already lost. First of all, welcome to our ranks. The Paradise of Gods hasn't had a quasi-emperor for 5 years. Your appearance is very timely. The 10,000 Arrow King looked at Yi Chen and said. Yi Chen nodded. He knew that the Paradise of Gods was facing a crisis from the Sky-Splitting King. 3 years ago, one of the 4 quasi-emperors, King Zishan, also died at the hands of the evil child king of the evil god Paradise. You're very strong, but I hope you can go all out. The 10,000 Arrow King regarded Yi Qin as a formidable opponent. I will. Yi Qin also regarded the 10,000 Arrow King as a formidable opponent. The 10,000 Arrow King was an expert in the Tao of archery, and his arrows never missed. The Thunderbolt Ball was a bit similar to archery, both were long-range battles. That's for the best. If you don't mind, I'll serve first. The Thunderbolt Ball was on the 10,000 Arrow King's side, so the 10,000 Arrow King felt that there was no need to deliberately let the other party serve first. While speaking, Yi Qin instantly entered the zone. Be careful. The 10,000 Arrow King threw the Thunderbolt Ball high and quickly struck it with his iron rod. With a bang, the Thunderbolt Ball shot over. As it approached Yi Qin, it suddenly split into 4, and the 4 balls flew in 4 different directions. Archery Collision Ball. Bang. Without any hesitation, Yi Qin hit the ball above him with his iron rod and ignored the other 3 balls. So confident. The 10,000 Arrow King's brows twitched. Among the 4 balls, some were real and some were fake, but guessing alone wasn't enough. With a 1 in 4 chance, the chance of guessing wrong was very high. Even the White Tiger King had to split out a phantom to deal with the other balls. Woo-woo. Yi Qin's return ball wasn't simple at all. Along the way, it rapidly grew in size and each ball was spinning. Giant spinning ball. The 10,000 Arrow King could tell that this ball was very difficult to catch. If Yi Qin and the White Tiger King were to fight, and Yi Qin used this ball, the White Tiger King would have less than a 30% chance of catching it. Of course, he also knew that the White Tiger King was very strong. While Yi Qin couldn't return the ball, he still had to use this kind of technique. The ball is constantly flickering inside. As long as I can find its trajectory, I can return it. The 10,000 Arrow King's eyesight wasn't inferior to Yi Qin's. Although the difficulty of catching the giant spinning ball was very high, he could still see its trajectory. The iron rod in the 10,000 Arrow King's hand was like an all-pervasive stream of water. With a swing of the rod, it passed through the outer wall of the giant spinning ball like a phantom, directly entering the core. Bang! The Thunderbolt Ball was repelled. Amazing! With the giant spinning ball broken, Yi Qin couldn't help but sigh in admiration at the 10,000 Arrow King's strength. This was the first time he had seen someone break his ultimate move so cleanly. The 10,000 Arrow King's strength stimulated Yi Qin's battle intent. Yi Qin waved the iron rod in his hand hundreds of times in a split second, and these hundreds of strikes stacked together, heavily striking the Thunderbolt Ball. In the spectator stands, Huang Hengfei's expression was somewhat puzzled. In the next moment, Huang Hengfei shouted, "It's my flickering meteor ball." In the sky above the Thunderbolt Stadium, hundreds of Thunderbolt balls shot out like a meteor shower streaking across the sky, resplendent, gorgeous, and incomparably gorgeous. But it seems to be 10 times more powerful than my flickering meteor ball. Although Huang Hengfei couldn't see where the real ball was from the external appearance, Yi Qin's flickering meteor ball was even more illusory and smooth, with almost no inconsistencies. The 10,000 Arrow King could naturally see that Yi Qin's battle intent was aroused. This made his blood boil, but his mind maintained absolute calmness. Normally, he would only reach this state in a life or death battle. Hot on the outside, cold on the inside, using absolute calmness to control his excited body. Archery Tao, ever-changing. The 10,000 Arrow King finally released his ultimate move. Using his left hand as the bow, the iron rod as the bowstring, and the Thunderbolt Ball as the arrow, he released a burst of energy. Swish, 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 swish. The sky above the stadium was filled with ball shadows, real and fake, flickering in the air. No one in the spectator stands could see the trajectory of this ball, because it was ever-changing. Even the 10,000 Arrow King, the originator, couldn't find the real ball in a split second. Yi Qin, how are you going to block it? The 10,000 Arrow King lowered his iron rod, looking calm and composed. Chapter 1104. It's ever-changing, but it's still the same. Yi Qin closed his eyes and scanned the area with his soul power. Myriad Arrow King's shape-shifting sphere was indeed ever-changing. Every instant, its trajectory would change dozens of times, and one of these dozens of changes would give birth to dozens of new changes. In short, as long as the Thunderbolt sphere's power didn't run out, the changes would only continue to increase. Soul Power had the ability to analyze, and Yi Chen's soul power was 10 times faster than normal kings. In just a second, Yi Chen had found the real ball. Without opening his eyes, Yi Chen took a step forward and lashed out with his rod. Boom! The sound of something being hit was heard as the Thunderbolt ball flew out. What? You broke my ball of shape-shifting? A trace of disbelief flashed through the Thousand Arrow Monarch's eyes. If it was him, he only had a 30% chance of defending against his shape-shifting sphere. Before this, in the entire Paradise of Gods, only 2 of the 3 Battle Emperors, the Sky Martial Monarch and the Divine Saber Monarch, could withstand the shape-shifting sphere. Crackle! The Thunderbolt ball that was knocked back slightly paused when it approached the Myriad Arrow King. In the next second, a rainstorm of Thunderbolt ball phantoms fell down like beams of light. It's my heavenly maiden scattering flowers. No, it's 10 times faster than that. Huang Fu Yu blurted out. Opening his eyes, Yi Chen smiled faintly. This move was the evolved version of Heavenly Maiden Scattering Flowers, Violent Storm. If the Myriad Arrow King used his full strength, he might have a chance to catch it, but now it was not possible. As expected, the careless and absent-minded Myriad Arrow King did not manage to catch this ball. He won. Even the Myriad Arrow King is not his opponent. The Genius Sword King is indeed worthy of his name. He cannot be judged with common sense. In the audience seating, although everyone was a bit surprised by this result, they did not think that it was impossible. They were all geniuses, but in front of Yi Chen, they had turned back into ordinary people. Ordinary people would always have a feeling of looking up to geniuses. Letting out a breath, the Myriad Arrow King sighed. Compared to you, there are not many who can be called geniuses. You were careless just now. Yi Chen said. Even if I wasn't careless, I wouldn't have been able to defeat you. The Myriad Arrow Monarch didn't think he had any chance of defeating Yi Chen since even his most powerful shape-shifting sphere couldn't do anything to Yi Chen. After pausing for a moment, the Myriad Arrow Monarch continued, You haven't joined the team yet. If you don't mind, you can join our Exorcist squad. The Demon Hunter team wasn't the strongest team in the Paradise of Gods. They weren't even in the top 3. The first team in the Paradise of Gods was the Martial King team. The second team was the Vermilion Bird King team, the third team was the Divine Blade King team, and the fourth team was the Demon Hunter team. There were only 5 teams in the Paradise of Gods, so the overall strength of the Demon Hunter team was the lowest, not to mention the ranking in the entire hunting battleground. Sure. Yi Chen nodded. You won't consider it? The Myriad Arrow Monarch was a little surprised. Yi Chen said, As far as I know, among the 5 teams, only the Divine Blade team and the Demon Hunter team are lacking members. To me, it doesn't matter which team I choose. Indeed, he didn't care which team he joined. It didn't matter if the team was strong or weak. He was only 1 step away from the 10th level of the God of War Pagoda. Do you know that our Demon Hunter team doesn't have a Battle the Arch? If we encounter an enemy team with a Battle the Arch, it will be very dangerous, the Myriad Arrow Monarch said. Yi Chen smiled. I think a Battle the Arch might not be faster than us. As long as we discover them in advance, we won't be in too much danger. The biggest difference between a Battle the Arch and a Subthearch was their battle prowess, and battle prowess was usually represented by one's attack power. Therefore, a Battle the Arch might not be faster than a Subthearch. If they couldn't beat a Battle the Arch, couldn't they run? You're right. If we encounter a Battle the Arch, we can run. The Myriad Arrow Monarch smiled. Welcome to the Demon Hunter team. Just like that, Yi Chen joined the Demon Hunter team. The captain of the Demon Hunter team was the Myriad Arrow Monarch, and the vice-captain was King Zishan, one of the 4 Subthearchs. Unfortunately, King Zishan had been killed by Evil Child King from the Evil God Paradise. Other than that, the Demon Hunter team had 5 other members, all with the strength of a Subthearch. They were Lu Di, Zhang Yinin, Sima Fei, Yuan Hong, and Lu Wenjie. Lu Wenjie, Lu Wenxiu? Yichen didn't know what their relationship was, but they looked somewhat similar. However, Lu Wenjie was colder, while Lu Wenxiu was more delicate. One day later, the 5 high-level teams entered the high-level hunting battlefield together. The advanced hunting battlefield was different from the elementary hunting battlefield or the intermediate hunting battlefield. The advanced hunting battlefield was a humongous planet. Its gravity was 1/10 of that of an ordinary white dwarf star. However, the amazing thing was that other than the terrifying gravity, everything that a planet should have had was present here. It was not crushed by the gravity. The place where the exorcist team appeared was a golden desert with a blazing sun. The sand is so heavy. Yichen grabbed a handful of sand and found that this small handful of sand weighed tens of thousands of kilograms. Of course, compared to the density of a white dwarf star, it was still a bit light. A handful of soil on a white dwarf star was estimated to be around 5 million kilograms. In the sand, Yichen felt a faint mysterious power, and it was this mysterious power that prevented the sand from being crushed by the gravity. We are used to calling this planet Hunting Planet. Everything on this planet is very mysterious, and you can't use common sense to look at it, the Myriad Arrow Monarch explained. Because the gravity on this planet was very strong, they could only fly at a low altitude and maintain a height of 100 meters from the ground. Not only was the gravity on this planet strong, but soul power was also greatly limited. In the starry sky, soul power could be amplified by a secret technique, and at most, it could be amplified to 10 million kilometers. Here, it could only be amplified to 1,000 kilometers, which was limited by 10,000 times. Pure soul power could only be amplified to 10 to 20 kilometers. Be careful! When they passed by a sand dune, a sand pillar shot up into the sky, and a huge sandworm-like divine worm scuttled out. It's an elite divine worm. Prepare to kill it. The Myriad Arrow Monarch took out a silver longbow, and a silver arrow was knocked on it. The biggest source of Shinbi in the high-level hunting battlefield was actually not the enemies, but the divine worms. Killing an ordinary divine worm was worth 5,000 Shinbi, and killing an elite divine worm was worth 10,000 Shinbi. Commander divine worms were worth 30,000 Shinbi. The divine worms in the high-level hunting battlefield rarely moved in groups, and it was possible to kill them with the power of a team. It was unlike the elementary and intermediate hunting battlefields, where divine worms moved in groups and fled as far as possible. Swish! The Myriad Arrow Monarch loosened his right hand, and the silver arrow was like a bolt of silver lightning, striking the elite divine worm. Immediately, a thick layer of frost covered its body, and its movements became sluggish. Chapter 1105. Then, apart from Yichen, the other 5 members also used their own unique skills. Lu Di swooped down and swung the huge saber in his hand. The saber light swept across the sandworm's body like azure lightning, leaving behind a clump of steel-like flesh and blood. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Vines as thick as pythons wrapped around the sandworm tighter and tighter. There were barbs on the surface of the vines, and if they pierced into the sandworm's body, even an Iron Man would be peeled off. This was Zhang Yinin's Darkwood profound martial art, Death Coil. Not only could it bind the enemy, but it could also absorb their strength. Sima Fei was not a human, but a demonic beast, a wind-splitting eagle. His claws were extremely sharp, and with each swipe, he would instantly tear off a large piece of steel-like flesh from the sandworm's body. Yuan Hong was also a demonic beast, a diamond ape. He was born with extraordinary strength and was invulnerable. After becoming a demonic king, he was only slightly weaker than the vermilion bird and other top-level demonic kings. Golden fists bombarded the sandworm's body, causing it to tremble. Large amounts of black blood sputtered out of its other wounds like a leaking wooden bucket. As for Lu Wenjie, Yichen already knew that he was Lu Wenxiu's elder brother and had only been in the paradise of gods for a dozen years. Without a doubt, he was a super genius, comparable to Audiobook. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to reach the strength of a quasi-emperor in less than 20 years. Lu Wenjie's weapon was a 9-foot-long spear with a blood-red spearhead. With a shake of the spear, countless blood-red spear flowers flickered in the void, one after another, densely packed like 100 flowers blooming, competing with each other for beauty. Finally, it was Yi Chen's White Dragon Destroyer. With a wave of his dragon spring sword, White Sword Chi condensed into a white dragon of destroyer, which bombarded the sandworm's body with its claws and fangs. The powerful destructive power caused a large piece of the sandworm's body to disappear. Although the sandworm was an elite divine insect, it couldn't withstand the attacks of so many people. After withstanding 3 or 4 rounds of attacks from the Exorcist squad, it completely died without being able to fight back. Although elite-grade god insects are powerful, they're not worth mentioning compared to commander-grade god insects. Any commander-grade god insect has the strength of a battle emperor. However, commander-grade god insects are territorial and won't leave their territory. Putting away the silver longbow, Myriad Arrow King said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen faintly nodded. He had heard the sky-splitting king talk about the god insects in the high-rank hunting battlefield. The ordinary god insects in the high-rank hunting battlefield were actually high-rank god insects. Low-rank god insects in the low-rank hunting battlefield were low-rank god insects, mid-rank god insects, and above high-rank god insects were elite god insects, and then commander god insects. Commander-class god insects were extremely powerful, and they were not weaker than battle emperors. Without a battle emperor, it was impossible to surround and kill them. However, commander-class god insects would only move around within their own territory. If they left their territory, they would not be attacked by commander-class god insects. There were many god insects on the hunting planet. After 3 days, the evil hunter team had killed 10 ordinary god insects and 4 elite god insects. Their income had reached 90,000. During this period, they had also encountered a commander-class god insect. This commander-class god insect was a mantis god insect. Its sawtooth forelimbs were more powerful than any treasured blade. Yuan Hong, who had an extremely strong defense, was only grazed by the blade light, and his blood and flesh flew everywhere. He almost died. At the crucial moment, the Myriad Arrow Monarch's frost arrow slowed down the mantis god insect's movement. Yi Chen used the Imperial Sword art to block it. Otherwise, even if the 7 of them could escape, half of them would be injured. Such a powerful commander-class god insect. Is this the strength of a battle emperor? This was the first time Yi Chen had encountered a commander-class god insect with the strength of a battle emperor. The opponent's attack was extremely powerful, and no one in the evil hunter team could defend against it. Not good. The evil light battle team is nearby. Suddenly, Lu Di shouted. The advanced hunting battlefield also had revenge mode. However, due to the special nature of the hunting planet, both parties would be automatically notified when they were within 100,000 miles. The evil light battle team was the battle team that Evil Child King was in. Activating the badge's light screen, Yi Chen found a red dot moving toward him. Although Evil Child King killed King Zishan last time, I also killed a member of the evil light battle team. Within 100,000 miles, both parties can sense each other's existence. The Myriad Arrow Monarch's expression was solemn. How about we retreat for now? The one who spoke was Zhang Yinin. King Kong Yuanhong also agreed with Zhang Yinin's suggestion. This evil child king is too powerful. King Zishan's defense is twice as strong as mine, but he still died in his hands. The Myriad Arrow Monarch looked at Yi Chen. Yi Chen, what do you think? Fleeing without a fight was not a good idea. After all, the evil light battle team didn't have a battle emperor. Yi Chen had just joined the evil hunter team, so he had to ask for his opinion. Yi Chen said, "Do you think it's possible for Evil Child King to become a battle emperor within a year? It shouldn't be possible. The stronger one is, the harder it is to improve. After reaching the strength of a quasi-emperor, every improvement is extremely difficult. Even if Evil Child King is a peerless genius of the evil spirit race, I'm afraid it will take him more than 3 to 5 years to become a battle emperor." Although the Myriad Arrow Monarch didn't know what Yi Chen meant, he still replied, "If he didn't become a battle emperor, I have some confidence in fighting him." Evil Child King was known as one of the 2 strongest quasi-emperors in the advanced hunting battlefield. Naturally, his reputation was not undeserved. However, Yi Chen wasn't afraid. His current strength was at the peak of Quasi-Emperor. Without a fight, it was still unknown who was stronger and who was weaker. You have the confidence to fight him? Sima Fei said in surprise. Evil Child King is the strongest Quasi-Emperor. Although they were both Quasi-Emperors, there was still a huge gap between them. In the Paradise of God, Celestial River King, White Tiger King, Myriad Arrow Monarch, and King Zishan were the 4 great Quasi-Emperors. However, in the advanced hunting battlefield, the strongest of the 4, the Celestial River King, was not ranked in the top 5. The reason why Evil Child King was known as one of the 2 strongest Quasi-Emperors was not only because of his strength, which was above the other Quasi-Emperors, but most importantly, he had the record of escaping unscathed from a battle emperor. The other strongest Quasi-Emperor, Silver King, was also the same. I believe in you, then let's fight. As the captain of the Evil Hunter team, the Myriad Arrow Monarch's decision was decisive. In fact, he was also suppressing a fire in his heart. King Zishan was his old friend, and the 2 had fought side by side for decades. If it wasn't for Evil Child King being too strong, he would never hesitate. Now, since Yichen said that he had the confidence to fight Evil Child King, why would he hesitate? On the hunting star, the distance of 100,000 miles was not short. Of course, it was not long either. About half an hour later, 7 evil kings with cold expressions flew over. Their leader, the Evil King, looked to be only 13 or 14 years old. He looked like an immature youth, but that was only his outer appearance. His temperament caused people to tremble. He was like a demon in the night. His eyes were dark green, and they seemed to be able to steal souls. Coupled with his pale white skin, he looked like an evil puppet. Myriad Arrow Monarch, we meet again. I wonder who will be my opponent this time? The young Evil King's gaze moved away from the Myriad Arrow Monarch and fell on Yichen. Intuition told him that the Evil Hunter team was most likely relying on this person. I will be your opponent. Under the gaze of the Evil Child King, Yichen stood up. Chapter 1106. From Evil Child King's body, Yichen felt a powerful pressure. This pressure did not only come from his power, but also from his killing intent. No matter how powerful an elephant was, it would still be docile deep down in its bones. And even if a lion had been locked up for a long time, it would not forget its hunting instinct. There was no doubt that Evil Child King was a lion. Of course, Yichen was not a docile elephant either. You look unfamiliar. You must have only become a Quasi-Emperor in the past year. There weren't many famous people in the advanced hunting battlefield. Basically, everyone had seen them in person or in images. Since Yichen had the guts to challenge him, he obviously had some skills. However, there was no information about Yichen in Evil Child King's memory. Not bad. Not only was Yichen observing Evil Child King, but he was also observing the other members of the Evil Light Battle team. Judging from their auras, the 6-fingered young man next to Evil Child King was also very strong, not inferior to Myriad Arrow King. Captain, there's no need to talk nonsense with him. Just kill him directly. With your strength, even the Silver King might not be your opponent. The others are just throwing their lives away. The 6-fingered young man was very confident in the Evil Child King, and this confidence was based on personal experience. He was not a nobody in the high-level hunting battlefield, and was known as the 6-fingered Evil King. Among the Quasi-Emperors, he was at least ranked in the top 10. However, since the rise of the Evil Child King, he had never withstood more than 10 moves from him. At most, he could only withstand 9 moves. After a year of closed-door training, he had made some progress and thought that he could withstand 10 moves, but unexpectedly, he was defeated at the 6th move. This made him realize that Evil Child King's progress was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. The gap between them would only grow bigger and bigger, and would not shrink. Although Silver King and Evil Child King were equally famous, with the passage of time, Silver King would inevitably be left behind by Evil Child King, because Silver King had been famous for decades, while Evil Child King had only been famous for a few years. A few years was equivalent to Silver King's decades. It was clear who was strong and who was weak. I'll leave the Myriad Arrow King to you. Don't get careless. Evil Child King said. Don't worry. He escaped last time, but he won't this time. The six-fingered evil king had fought with the myriad arrow monarch before, so he knew the latter very well. If the latter did not improve in the past year, he would definitely die. Myriad Arrow King, be careful. Yichen turned around and said to the Myriad Arrow King and the others, "You too." The Myriad Arrow Monarch nodded and stared at the six-fingered evil king with a solemn expression. The last time they fought, the six-fingered evil king's strength wasn't any weaker than his. This time, the six-fingered evil king dared to boast. His strength must have improved by a lot. The six-fingered evil king and the thousand-arrow king were the first to exchange moves. The latter specialized in finger arts, and a series of eerie finger energies shot out with ever-changing trajectories. The thousand-arrow king was an expert in the art of archery. He quickly drew his bow and shot out a series of Zhenyuan arrows, which collided with the six-fingered evil king's finger energies. Mutual destruction. Go. Then, the other members of the Exorcist battle team also started fighting with the Evil Light battle team. Only Evil Child King and Yichen did not move and stared at each other. "I really admire you. You have just become a quasi-emperor, yet you already dare to challenge me. However, this is also where you are foolish." Evil Child King's movement technique was very fast. Just like the gray-robed Evil King on the 9th level of the God of War Pagoda, he could instantly turn into smoke and disappear, then reappear in front of Yichen. Pucci, the air was torn apart, and a dark green ghost claw grabbed at the top of Yichen's head. Evil Child King was fast, but Yichen was even faster. The Dragon Spring sword had already been unsheathed, and with a swing, it blocked Evil Child King's claw energy. Suddenly Yichen's figure stagnated, and the light in his eyes dissipated. Evil Child King's eyes were like dark green gems, releasing a misty light. This light was not aggressive, but it could make Yichen lose his concentration and spirit. Losing concentration in a battle was definitely an act of seeking death. It was already not bad to be able to exert 20 to 30% of one's strength. Pumph. Evil Child King sneered, his left hand turned into a bird's beak, and drilled towards Yichen's heart. However, he did not succeed. His wrist was grabbed by Yichen, and he could not move an inch. The vertical eye between his eyebrows opened, and a silver beam of light shot into Evil Child King's mind. Not good. Evil Child King's face turned pale, and a dark green halo rippled out from his body. The halo vibrated and pushed away Yichen, while he himself flew backward with the help of this force. He did not expect that even the evil spirit confusion technique could not confuse Yichen, and instead, he was hit by Yichen's soul attack. If it were not for the evil spirit confusion technique, which gave him an extra layer of soul defense, this soul attack would have seriously injured his soul. How could he have expected that Yichen's immortal sword intent was invulnerable, and he was caught off guard by the evil spirit confusion technique? Looking at Evil Child King flying backward, Yichen secretly felt pity. Just now, time was tight, and he only had time to use Soul Light. If he used Soul Lock, even if Evil Child King had a layer of soul defense, it would be useless. However, he also understood that Soul Lock alone could not kill Evil Child King. The soul of the Evil Spirit Clan was naturally strong. Even if they were unprepared, their soul could not be destroyed, and it was even more impossible if they were prepared. Soul attacks consumed soul power, and there was no way to recover soul power in a short time. Yichen gave up the idea of using Soul Lock, and attacked with a White Dragon Annihilation. In the face of Yichen's unique skill, Evil Child King seemed to be at ease. With a wave of his right hand, the white dragon formed by Sword Chi was involuntarily pushed aside, unable to do anything to Evil Child King. "Taste my Evil Dragon hand." Pushing away the white dragon, Evil Child King struck out a dark green Evil Dragon Chi. Amazing as expected of Evil Child King. Seeing that Evil Child King easily resolved the White Dragon Annihilation, Yichen had to admit that Evil Child King's strength was more powerful than he imagined. His combat skills had reached the realm of perfection. Of course, the opponent's strength also aroused his fighting spirit. A sharp cutting sound rang out, and the dark green Evil Dragon Chi was cut into two. In the next moment, Yichen's figure swept over, and countless sword lights shrouded Evil Child King. Evil Child King was stunned, and he saw the confidence of victory from the opponent's sword. "It seems that I have underestimated you." Evil Child King let out a long roar, and instantly entered the realm of Selfless Emperor. The dark green halo covering his body was like an inflated balloon, constantly expanding and forcibly deflecting the sword lights that were attacking him. Great Blue Sky Palm. Evil Child King's unique skills were endless. Previously, it was the Evil Dragon Hand, but this time, it was the more powerful Great Blue Sky Palm. His entire right hand was dyed in green, and his palm was the densest. He slapped his palm across the air toward Yichen. The profound of death and the profound of water. The profound of death was also a profound, and it was a kind of profound that was much more powerful than the ordinary profound. Entering the life and death realm was actually comprehending the profound of life and death, which was the Tao of life and death. Therefore, every king warrior knew the profound of life and death. However, there were not many who could comprehend the profound of life and death to perfection. The Paradise of God had the Tower of Yin and the Tower of Yang, but not the Tower of Life and the Tower of Death. Time, space, and life and death were all the most original things. Of course, the same was true for Yin and Yang. Yichen could see that Evil Child King's profound of death had not reached perfection, but this did not hinder the power of the Great Blue Sky Palm. This move had already surpassed the second-rank martial arts and reached the third rank. Facing this deadly move, Yichen did not dare to be careless. He had already performed the three flowers borrowing art, and his battle power had doubled. Immediately, the dragon's spring sword in his hand shook and stabbed, and the space froze. There was no earth-shattering sound, but there was a burst of shock waves. At that moment, the space seemed to expand, and everyone's blood boiled. He is actually on par with the captain? Impossible. The six-fingered Evil King sensed the situation and was slightly absent-minded. Being distracted during a battle can cost one's life. Myriad Arrow King took out 3 golden arrows from his storage ring. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 3 golden arrows shot out side by side, their tails spewing out chi. Swoosh. The six-fingered Evil King's head flew high into the sky. Although he had dodged the 3 golden arrows, he did not expect that there was a thread connecting the 3 arrows. This thread was extremely sharp, transparent, and formless. By the time he realized it, it was already too late, and his head had been separated from his body. Explode! The Myriad Arrow Monarch held a thread in his left hand and forcefully pulled it. In the next moment, the 3 golden arrows that had already flown past his head turned around and bombarded the six-fingered Evil King's body, exploding violently and turning the six-fingered Evil King into ashes. Not a single drop of blood remained. I didn't waste these 3 exploding spirit arrows. In the past year, Myriad Arrow King's strength had not made much progress. However, he had bought 10 exploding spirit arrows from an auction outside, spending more than half of his wealth. Exploding spirit arrows were one-time consumables and would explode upon contact with a target. The power of the explosion was no less than a mid-stage half-emperor's all-out attack. With 3 exploding spirit arrows exploding together, even a peak half-emperor would suffer severe injuries. With great power, the price would naturally not be low. 10 exploding spirit arrows cost Myriad Arrow King 1 million yuan stones, and the 3 exploding spirit arrows he had just used could buy a Heavenly King-grade artifact. The second to deal with his opponent was Lu Wenjie. Lu Wenjie was worthy of being a genius at Agio's level. The others were evenly matched, and even the Myriad Arrow King had to rely on exploding spirit arrows to kill his opponent. However, Lu Wenjie relied on his own strength without any tricks. In a short year, his battle power had increased by at least 30%, and each of his moves was deadly. Bang! Blood-colored spear flowers blossomed as the opponent's head exploded, body exploded, and blood exploded. Anything that was not destroyed could not escape the blood-colored spear flowers. Oh no, retreat. Losing 2 members all at once, the rest of the Evil Light battle squad panicked. In the hunting battlefield, the most dreaded thing was to be outnumbered. Once such a situation occurred, it was best to retreat. Without any hesitation, except for Evil Child King, the rest of the Evil Light Battle Squad fled. They were not worried about Evil Child King, as he could escape unscathed from a battle emperor. Obviously, he would not die here. I'll finish you off with one move. The death of the six-fingered Evil King and another member was beyond Evil Child King's expectation. He knew that he did not have much time left. If he could not finish off Yichen with one move, then he could only flee. He was not strong enough to compete with a battle squad. After all, he was not a battle emperor. All right, one move to decide the winner. Yichen leaped high into the air and merged with the sun of the high-level hunting battlefield. Endless sunlight gathered on the dragon spring sword, and the space seemed to be slightly distorted. Chapter 1107. Blue Sky Underworld Emperor's Seal. Extreme Sun Essence Transformation. Evil Child King's cultivation base was the same as Yichen's, 5th layer life and death realm. However, his advantage was greater than Yichen's. He could enter the Ineta Emperor realm, increasing his battle power by several folds. On the other hand, Yichen couldn't enter the Ineta Emperor realm. His Three Flowers Borrowing Way could only increase his battle power by several folds, but his basic strength couldn't compare to his opponent's. However, Yichen's advantage wasn't something his opponent could compare with. Blue Sky Underworld Emperor Seal's might was a bit more powerful than White Dragon Exterminating World and Momentary Brilliance. Both of them had just reached the third revolution. On the other hand, Yichen's Extreme Sun Essence Transformation already had the aura of a true third revolution martial skill. The gloomy river of death turned into a huge seal and flew toward Yichen. A beam of sun essence condensed into a bright sword chi and shot toward Evil Child King, leaving a trail of fire in the void. Bang! A dazzling light exploded on the hunting star. Many senior members who were far away could feel the intense light flashing by. What a good third revolution sword art. I'll definitely take your life when I see you in the future. Evil Child King's voice drifted over and gradually faded away. Putting the dragon spring sword back into its sheath, Yichen didn't chase. Evil Child King's speed was a bit faster than his, so he couldn't catch up. This person could escape unscathed from battle emperors several times. Evil Child King retreated in defeat? Amazing! This is a top-notch sword artist. The members of the Evil Hunter Squad looked at Yichen with admiration. Even Lu Wenjie's eyes flickered with a strange light. We can't stay here for long. The commotion just now should have been sensed by many people. Yichen said. Myriad Arrow King nodded and led the group to the northeast. His smoke-like figure flickered in the void and soon caught up with the other members of the Evil Light Squad. There was a huge gap on the right side of his chest. The gap was like cheese and the edge was waxy. It was also faintly emitting heat and fire. Although his Blue Sky Underworld Emperor Seal had surpassed the power of a second transformation peak martial art, it was still much weaker than Yichen's third transformation sword art. It was cut open in an instant, and the green halo covering his body was also pierced through. The powerful destruction sword intent and the sword chi transformed from the essence of the sun made it impossible for him to recover in a short time. He could only slowly eliminate the sword intent and sword chi. Captain, are you hurt? The only female member of the Evil Light Battle Squad exclaimed. An interesting swordsman. He actually comprehended the third revolution sword art. Evil Child King ignored his injuries and said indifferently, Third revolution sword art. The members of the Evil Light Battle team sucked in a cold breath. Third revolution martial arts were unique to combat emperors, and they possessed astonishing destructive power. The other party was merely a quasi-emperor, yet he was able to comprehend a third revolution sword art. What would happen if he became a combat emperor? In the high-level hunting battlefield, killing one person was worth 150,000 shinbi, and killing two people was worth 300,000 shinbi. The luck of the Evil Hunter battle team was like a rainbow. Together with the shinbi obtained from killing the divine insects, their total income had reached 390,000 shinbi. Adding the team reward, it was 429,000 shinbi. On average, each person could get 60,000 shinbi. Of course, there were big and small contributions, and it was impossible to share them equally. Yi Chen's contribution was originally 14, but now it had become 16. Although he didn't kill a single person in the battle with the evil light battle team, it was precisely because of his presence that they were able to stop Evil Child King. Therefore, his contribution did not decrease but increased. The second and third ranked were the Thousand Arrow King and Lu Wenjie. The Thousand Arrow King's contribution was 13, and Lu Wenjie's was 11. I don't make a profit for 3 years, but when I do, I can eat for 3 years. I didn't expect my luck to be so good this time. I still need 10,000 Shinbi to exchange for a low-level Heavenly King set. While flying, the Thousand Arrow King said in a relaxed tone. As a veteran quasi-emperor and one of the 4 great quasi-emperors of the Paradise of Gods, the Myriad Arrows monarch had yet to collect 300,000 Shinbi. Most of the Shinbi he had spent on cultivation was used. The more Shinbi he spent on cultivation, the less he saved up. Of course, the more Shinbi he spent, the less he saved up. Of course, the chances of survival for the latter were too low, and he could die if he was not careful. Sigh, we still don't know when we can collect 300,000 Shinbi. Zhang Yinin said enviously. A low-level Heavenly King set was worth no less than a top-level Heavenly King armor. It was enough to increase their defense by several times, and even if they encountered the strongest quasi-emperors, they wouldn't be killed in a few moves. If they were a little faster, they wouldn't have to fear the other party and could escape whenever they wanted. However, among the quasi-emperors, only the most veteran quasi-emperors had low-level Heavenly King set. For example, the Celestial River King of the Paradise of Gods had a low-level Heavenly King set. Don't envy me. As long as Yi Chen can become a combat emperor, you will all have a chance to own a low-level Heavenly King set. The Thousand Arrow King looked at Yi Chen with a smile. If a team could have a combat emperor, it would be the end of the team. The speed at which they earned Shinbi would greatly increase, and the number of dangers would also decrease. Then let's get ready to bask in Yi Chen's glory. Lu Di, Sima Fei, and the others smiled. They didn't think that Yi Chen couldn't become a combat emperor. It was just a matter of time. In a flash, another 3 days passed by. Finally, 300,000 Shinbi. The Thousand Arrow King was in a good mood. In the past 3 days, they had hunted a total of 8 high-grade god insects and 2 elite god insects. With the Thousand Arrow King's contribution, he could earn at least 10,000. Be careful, we're being watched. Yi Chen's sharp eyes stared ahead. At the end of the horizon, there were 7 figures flying over. They were more than 300 li away from them. Clearly, the other party had used a secret soul technique to sense them, and they couldn't possibly release their soul power at all times. It's the Blood Hammer Battle team from the Yaksha deity paradise. Oh no, run. In the blink of an eye, the other party was less than 300 li away from them. The Thousand Arrow King's expression changed abruptly as he shouted. Swish! Swish! Without any hesitation, besides Yi Chen, the other 6 flew in the opposite direction at their fastest speed. Zhang Yinin, who was following behind, turned around. Seeing that Yi Chen didn't run away immediately, she hurriedly said, Yi Chen, let's go. The Blood Hammer Battle team is a combat emperor team, and they have a combat emperor. Yi Chen nodded. In his vision, the 7 Yaksha kings of the Blood Hammer Battle team appeared vividly in his mind. The leading Yaksha king's skin was no different from a human's, and he had a pair of fleshy wings on his back. With a flap of his wings, he moved as fast as lightning. At this moment, his mouth was curled up, and a dense killing intent shot through the air. Swish! Turning around, Yi Chen chased after Zhang Yinin and the others. Yi Chen's speed was faster than the rest, and he caught up with Zhang Yinin in a short while. Zhang Yinin's expression was solemn as she said, the Yaksha deity paradise has 3 combat emperors, and the captain of the Blood Hammer Battle team is one of the 3 combat emperors, Ma King. If we fight him head-on, we won't be his match. The only way out is to run. Ma King's weapon is the Meteor Hammer, and its attack power is very strong. If you get hit by him, you'll most likely die. Yuan Hong added. In the high-level hunting battlefield, quasi-emperors were just ordinary people, and only combat emperors could control the situation. Although Evil Child King was one of the strongest quasi-emperors, and had the record of escaping unscathed from a combat emperor, he would still die if he fought a combat emperor to the death. Not to mention Evil Child King, even if the two strongest quasi-emperors and Yi Chen came together, they still wouldn't be able to contend against a combat emperor. Mal King wasn't considered a powerful combat emperor, just like Divine Saber Monarch and Vermilion Bird Monarch, they were only low-level combat emperors. But a combat emperor was still a combat emperor, and he could contend against titled monarchs. Mal King's speed was very fast, and the slowest of the Exorcist team was Zhang Yining. She was less than 200 miles away from Mal King, and the distance was still closing. Zhang Yining was anxious. Not only did she enter the selfless emperor realm, but her hands were also forming seals at lightning speed, and a giant dark bird phantom appeared on her body. Swish! Layers of phantoms appeared, and Zhang Yining's speed increased explosively. Trying to escape from my hands? Dream on. Mal King's wings flickered with lightning, and his speed increased by another 30%, closing the distance to 180 miles. 150 miles. 120 miles. Am I going to die just like this? Zhang Yining didn't expect anyone to save her, and she didn't hate anyone. Teams without combat emperors had a rule that once they encountered a combat emperor, they could only rely on their speed to escape. Staying behind to save someone would be suicide. One person dying was better than the entire team being annihilated. Mal King, watch my arrows. Flying at the front, Myriad Arrow King didn't slow down, and he turned around to shoot 10 arrows at Mal King. Shio 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 shio. This arrow was Myriad Arrow King's ultimate move, Myriad Transformation. 10 sharp arrows would transform into 100 or even 1,000 arrows, making it hard to distinguish the real from the fake. Paltry tricks. A blood-colored warhammer appeared in King Mal's hand, and with a swing of the hammer, all the arrows were destroyed. Abruptly, 3 powerful waves of fire erupted, causing King Mal's speed to drop sharply. As it turned out, 3 of the 10 arrows were spirit explosion arrows. Stop resisting, you guys won't be able to escape. The distance between Mal King and Zhang Yining was now over 200 miles, but he didn't mind. The enemy's spirit explosion arrows couldn't be endless, and as long as they were used up, at least 2 members of the Exorcist team would die. You guys go, don't worry about me. Zhang Yining knew that Myriad Arrow King only had 10 spirit explosion arrows, and he had already used 3 before. Now, he had 3 more, and the remaining 4 were useless. Damn it. Lu Di, Sima Fei, and Yuan Hong gnashed their teeth. They weren't Myriad Arrow King, so they couldn't attack Mal King without slowing down. After all, Myriad Arrow King was an archer. Lu Wenjie held a black pellet in his hand, and after thinking for a moment he sighed. This Black Dragon Thunderbolt pellet was his trump card, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to deal with a battle emperor. Even a casual attack from a battle emperor was terrifying. You guys go first or I'll stop him. All of a sudden, Yi Chen slowed down, allowing Zhang Yining to fly in front of him. He turned around and saw Mal King coming at him from over 100 miles away. Yi Chen, Zhang Yining was shocked and touched. Myriad Arrow King and the other 4 were shocked as well. It's fine, I'm confident that I can escape unscathed. You guys go as far as you can. On the hunting star, even if they used soul secret arts, their soul power could only cover a distance of 1,000 miles. As long as they could escape, Mal King wouldn't be able to sense them, and naturally, he wouldn't be able to chase after them. Pulling out the dragon spring sword, Yi Chen slashed at Mal King. Kid, you're quite loyal, but it's a pity that people like you die the fastest. Mal King raised his warhammer and lightly swung, shattering the incoming white dragon sword chi. Chapter 1108. Yi Chen, be careful, don't take it head-on. The Myriad Arrow Monarch gritted his teeth and continued flying forward. He knew very well that if he stayed, not only would he be of no use, but he would also be a burden to Yi Chen. The others helplessly followed behind the Myriad Arrow Monarch, silently praying that Yi Chen would be able to escape unscathed. In the blink of an eye, Mal King was less than 50 li away from Yi Chen. King Mal was tall and sturdy, his body was filled with explosive power. His head wasn't too big compared to his body, and his eyes were filled with malevolence, flickering with a cruel yellow light. You think you can stop me? The Mall King didn't care about the other party stopping to stop him. To him, dealing with Yi Chen was as easy as lifting a finger, saving him the time to chase after the other party. Raising his blood-red hammer high, Mall King let out a low growl and smashed it down. Hong, a blood-red hammer shadow mixed with lightning arcs slashed towards Yi Chen. Second Revolution Peak Martial Art, Blood Thunder Hammer. Buzz. Sensing the terrifying power of this hammer, Yi Chen immediately released his split sword domain. With the split sword domain's obstruction, the blood-red hammer shadow slowed down, and by the time it arrived in front of Yi Chen, it only had 70 to 80% of its power left. Of course, even so, Yi Chen didn't dare to be careless. After all, his opponent was a combat emperor, and his battle prowess was several times higher than his. The dragon spring sword shook and stabbed forward, increasing the power of space stop by several times, piercing through the blood-red hammer shadow. However, the residual power of the hammer shadow still sent him flying back dozens of li, causing him to spurt out a large mouthful of blood. Space stop power. Mall King had seen some kings who were proficient in the profound of space, but only a few could study the power of space stop. He sneered inwardly. No wonder the other party dared to stop him, he had some ability. Unfortunately, in front of absolute strength, any action was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Take my meteor annihilation. Clatter, 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 clatter. The blood-colored war hammer in Immortal King's hand was a meteor hammer with an egg-thick chain attached to it. Holding one end of the chain in his left hand, his body emitted a powerful aura. The blood-colored war hammer spun a few times before fiercely flinging out, turning into a blood-colored meteor that bombarded toward Yi Chen. Rank 3 Martial Art, Meteor Annihilation. This move is very dangerous. Yi Chen's body seemed to have been electrocuted, his nerves stretched to the limit. He was able to block the opponent's attack just now because of the assistance of the sword domain. Moreover, Moment of Glory also carried a powerful space stop power. Without the sword domain, Yi Chen would have been crippled even if he didn't die. Without Moment of Glory, Yi Chen would have died without a doubt. All of a sudden, Yi Chen pushed his sword domain to its limit. Within the radius of several hundred li, everything suddenly stopped moving. Not even the slightest sound could be transmitted out. Staring at the incoming blood-colored meteor, Yi Chen held the dragon spring sword with both of his hands and raised it high above his head. In the next moment, countless strands of light from the heaven and earth poured into the sword, causing it to shine brightly. This was not an ordinary light, which he could not affect. It was the essence of the sun, a very high-grade kind of natural yuan qi. A strand of sun essence was even purer than the Zhen Yuan of Sixth Sky of Life and Death Realm. Go! Seeing that the blood-colored shooting star was about to reach him, Yi Chen shouted and slashed down with his sword. Leaving a fan-shaped flame mark in the void, the sun essence on the dragon spring sword transformed into an even purer sword qi and heavily slashed down on the blood-colored meteor. Third Revolution Sword Art, Extreme Sun Essence Transformation. Clang. A frightening sound wave and shockwave exploded, and Yi Chen's sword domain instantly collapsed. His body was once again blown back 100 li. His clothes were torn to shreds, exposing his sturdy muscles. His face turned from white to green, then from green to purple. A mouthful of blood spurted out, reaching several hundred meters away. Humph! Immortal King also let out a muffled groan and retreated 100 meters. His chest felt a bit stuffy, and his face revealed a shocked expression as he blurted out, Third Revolution Sword Art. That's right, it's a Third Revolution Sword Art. How could an ordinary sword art make me retreat? Immortal King had to admit that the opponent's Third Revolution Sword Art was much more powerful than his Meteor Annihilation. What? Captain was pushed back. Who is the opponent? The members of the Bloodhammer squad were not surprised that Yi Chen was forced to vomit blood. On the contrary, they felt that the injury was too light. They were shocked that Immortal King was pushed back. Good, it said that there are two strongest quasi-emperors in the high-level hunting battlefield, One is the Silver King, and the other is the Evil Child King. You can be the third. No, you are the real strongest quasi-emperor. They are weaker than you. Slowly letting out a breath, Mo the king looked at Yi Chen with great interest. Inwardly, his killing intent rose. To him, it didn't matter if he killed the other members of the Hunter Demon Squad or not, but this Yi Chen must be killed. Otherwise, he would become the pillar of the human race sooner or later. The hunting battlefield was a battlefield for geniuses, and in the universe outside, geniuses from hostile races would not rest until one of them was dead. Captain. The members of the Bloodhammer squad caught up. Mo the king transmitted his voice to them. This man is not that easy to kill. Surround him from both sides, don't let him escape. Killing him alone is equivalent to killing 10 human geniuses. Yes, he won't be able to escape. The 6 members of the Bloodhammer squad split into 2 groups. One group flew to the left, while the other flew to the right, trying their best to avoid Yi Chen's split sword domain. Trying to surround and kill me? How could Yi Chen not see through his opponent's plan? Yi Chen turned around and increased his speed, increasing the distance between them. Wanna leave? Mo the king laughed, and his speed exploded to the limit. The blood-red hammer in his hand once again smashed toward Yi Chen. He didn't believe that Yi Chen could block more than a few meteor annihilations, not to mention, if he chose to block, his speed would decrease. The blood-red meteor chased after Yi Chen, getting closer and closer. Finally, with a loud bang, the blood-red meteor smashed Yi Chen into pieces. Something's wrong. Mo the king frowned. What he hit wasn't a real body. Just as expected, Yi Chen's figure reappeared, completely unscathed. It turned out that he had used Shadow Godly Step at the crucial moment, replacing his real body with a shadow clone. Next, one continued to attack, while the other continued to use shadow clones. The distance between the two gradually increased. While Mo the king attacked, his speed was also affected. No need to chase. Seeing that the distance between the two had increased to 500 li, Mo the king stopped. At this distance, he would need to use a soul secret art to sense the other party. Damn, he actually escaped. The members of the Bloodhammer squad were a little angry. Mo the king sneered, there will be plenty of chances. I hope his luck will be this good next time. Through the insignia, Yi Chen contacted the Myriad Arrow Monarch and the others. With regards to Yi Chen escaping unscathed from the battle Emperor Mo the king, the Myriad Arrow Monarch and the others had nothing but shock and admiration. Facing the pursuit of a battle emperor, speed alone wasn't enough. In the early stages, one would definitely have to resist a few times. If one couldn't even resist once or twice, no matter how fast one was, only death awaited them. On the last day, the Evil Hunter squad killed another 4 high-grade god insects and 1 elite god insect, earning 30,000 Shinbi. In total, the Evil Hunter squad had earned a total of 480,000 Shinbi. Including the team rewards, the total was 528,000 Shinbi. Yi Chen's contribution was 16, and the total contribution was 70. In total, Yi Chen earned 128,000 Shinbi. The Myriad Arrow Monarch was second with 98,000 Shinbi, and Lu Wenjie was third with 82,500 Shinbi. It could be said that this time's earnings were comparable to the Evil Hunter squad's earnings several times in the past. The main reason was that they were lucky this time, killing 2 members of the Evil Light Battle team. One had to know that killing 1 member would earn 150,000 Shinbi, and 2 would earn 300,000 Shinbi. Without the 300,000 Shinbi, the total earnings would only be around 200,000 Shinbi. I didn't expect to earn 300,000 Shinbi so quickly. Previously, Yi Chen had already saved 180,000 Shinbi, and now he had 128,000 Shinbi. His savings had reached 308,000 Shinbi, and he could exchange for a low-grade Heavenly King set at the exchange tower like the Myriad Arrow Monarch. At that time, his defense would increase by several folds, and he would be able to contend with a low-grade combat emperor for a period of time. Of course, it was impossible to truly contend with a combat emperor. Not to mention how powerful a combat emperor's attack was, a combat emperor's defense was also terrifying. Almost all of them had a low-grade Heavenly King set, and some even had a mid-grade Heavenly King set. Yi Chen's attacks were equivalent to tickling them. 7 days later, the evil hunter squad walked out of the hunting tower. "Let's go in exchange for a Heavenly King set," the Myriad Arrow Monarch said to Yi Chen. "All right." Yi Chen nodded. The exchange tower had a total of 3 floors. The first floor was for low-grade Heavenly King set, the second floor was for mid-grade Heavenly King set, and the third floor was for high-grade Heavenly King set. Upon arriving at the first floor of the exchange tower, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. On the walls of the first floor of the exchange tower, there were sets of multicolored sets floating in the air. These sets were wrapped in an aura barrier, and they shone with their own radiance. "I've chosen the set I want." After spending the time to drink a cup of tea, the Myriad Arrow Monarch chose a green light armor set. This light armor set had a mysterious trajectory outlined on its surface, and it was these mysterious trajectories that allowed the various parts of the set to form a close connection. After paying the Shinbi, the Myriad Arrow Monarch waved his hand, and the green set flashed with light, automatically covering the Myriad Arrow Monarch. Buzz. A green brilliance erupted, and the Myriad Arrow Monarch's aura underwent a subtle change. His chi and blood were completely locked within his body, and not a single bit leaked out. "My defense has at least doubled, and my energy has increased by about 30%. The Myriad Arrow Monarch revealed a happy expression, and he looked at Yi Chen and said, "Yi Chen, have you chosen yet?" "Done." Yi Chen chose a silver-white set. Compared to the Myriad Arrow Monarch's green set, the silver-white set was slightly thicker, but it was still considered a light armor. The silver-white set had 5 parts: the breastplate, arm guards, leg guards, gloves, and combat boots. The silver-white set's name was the Silver Set. The name was very ordinary, but the aura it gave off was very sharp. Chapter 1109. Putting on the Silver Set, Yi Chen operated his Zhen Yuan and entered the set. In the next moment, the set burst out with a dazzling silver-white radiance, looking like a small silver sun. Refining an artifact was not difficult. The first step was to let one's Zhen Yuan enter the artifact and fuse it with its source power. This way, the artifact's power would more or less be revealed. The second step was to leave a soul imprint in the depths of the artifact. In this way, the soul and chi would fuse, and the artifact's power would be pushed to the limit. In a short period of time, Yi Chen had already fused his Zhen Yuan with the Silver Set's source power and left a soul imprint. However, it would still take some time before he could truly familiarize himself with the Silver Set. The defense has more than doubled, and the energy has increased by 30%. Among the same grade of equipment, the basic defense and energy amplification were about the same. However, every equipment set had its own unique set attributes. For example, some equipment sets could increase movement speed in addition to the basic amplification, while others could increase defense or directly add defensive skills. There were even some that could increase domains. Of course, these kinds of equipment sets were very rare, 1 in 100. It's rare to find a Heavenly King grade set. It would be a pity if I don't refine it into my body. In the next year, I'll try to fuse the hunting set into my body. Myriad Arrow King was extremely fond of the hunting set and said to Yi Chen with a smile. Yi Chen faintly nodded, "Me too." Life and Death Kings could already reach the level of refining treasures into their bodies. The so-called refining of treasures into one's body meant that one's body and the treasures would be completely integrated. This was an extremely slow process. Ordinary Life and Death Kings would need at least dozens of years to reach this step. Reaching the 5th or even 6th layer of Life and Death realm would take at least a year and a half. Fusing artifacts into one's body had many benefits. The first was convenience. Wearing a full set of artifacts was not very aesthetically pleasing, and everyone preferred to wear a single piece of clothing. The second was that one could bring out the attributes of the set to its peak without the slightest barrier. The third was that it would not easily attract other people's attention. After spending 300,000 divine coins for the Silver Set, Yi Chen only had 8,000 divine coins left. Since he couldn't use it for cultivation, fusing artifacts into one's body was the best choice. The Paradise of Gods also had 4 seasons. Spring passed, summer passed, and it was now autumn. The wooden house in front of the bamboo forest was still lush with greenery. The river in front of the wooden house flowed, performing a moving melody. Inside the wooden house, Yichen sat cross-legged on the bamboo floor with his upper body naked. His body was emitting a silvery white light. The light was almost tangible, and one could vaguely see that it was a silvery white suit. The energy-based suit gradually hid into Yi Chen's body, and it merged with Yi Chen's flesh and blood. One day passed. The silvery white light disappeared, and some light patterns appeared on Yi Chen's body. Soon after, the light patterns disappeared into his body, becoming one with his body. Refining the weapon into the body, success. Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Yi Chen opened his eyes and slowly stood up. As expected of a low-level heavenly king set. It took me an entire 7 months to completely merge it into my body. However, these 7 months have not been wasted. The basic defense of the silver set equipment has been tripled, and the energy has been increased by 40%. It's even more powerful than wearing it on the outside. Pushing open the door, Yi Chen walked out. On the grassland, Yi Chen suddenly circulated his Zhen Yuan, activating the power of the silver set equipment. Puff! A soft sound was heard, and a layer of silvery white light spread out from the surface of Yi Chen's body. Under the cover of the light, Yi Chen seemed to have turned into an iron man made of silver. Taking out the dragon spring sword, Yi Chen flipped his hand and stabbed into his own body. All of a sudden, a huge amount of fire sparks shot out, but his body remained perfectly unharmed, not even a mark. The silver white light had blocked out the sword power completely. Compared to before, Yi Chen's current defense could be said to be terrifying. Among the quasi-emperors, no one could break through his defense. After all, he still had the body-protecting sword intent. The basic defense has been tripled. Once I activate the silver protection, my defense will continue to increase, reaching 5 times. Even a beginner combat emperor would have a hard time injuring me in a short period of time. Buzz! A silver light flashed, and a silvery white halo rippled out from Yi Chen's body. This was the additional defensive skill of the silver set equipment, silver protection. The silver protection was very powerful, and it could increase Yi Chen's defense by 5 times. The weakness was that it consumed a lot of the power of the silver set equipment. It could only be activated for 15 minutes a day. After that, the power of the silver set equipment would drop to a certain level, and the silver protection would not be able to be activated anymore. The next activation would have to wait for the set's power to recover. But for Yi Chen, 15 minutes was not a short time. On the 9th floor of the God of War pagoda, Yi Chen challenged the gray-robed evil king again. Limitless triple tremor. After taking Yi Chen's extreme sun essence transformation, the gray-robed evil king's body started to melt like a wax man. But just like last time, he used his most powerful move, slapping at Yi Chen through the air. Yi Chen's body shook, and the silvery white light on his body flickered, almost extinguishing. The next moment, blood leaked out from the corner of Yi Chen's mouth, and his face turned pale. Such a powerful attack. My defense has been increased by 3 times, but I still almost couldn't withstand it. Yi Chen was secretly shocked by the gray-robed evil king's attack. In terms of attack, he was probably not much weaker than a low-level battle emperor. Die! Yi Chen forcefully gathered his true essence and stabbed at the gray-robed evil king. This sword was momentary brilliance. The extreme sun essence transformation might be powerful, but it required sufficient preparation. Currently, the true essence in his body was in a mess, and he couldn't use the extreme sun essence transformation. The space was still, and a dazzling radiance exploded. The gray-robed evil king had fallen. With the help of the silver set equipment, Yi Chen finally passed the 9th floor of the God of War pagoda and arrived at the 10th floor. Swish! Just at the 10th floor, Yi Chen was instantly killed by a sword chi. The opponent was a sword king of demons, and his eyes were tightly shut. At the entrance of the God of War pagoda, Yi Chen walked out with a bitter smile. The difficulty of the 10th floor was beyond his imagination. The Devil Race's Sword King was more than 10 times stronger than King Maul. One had to know that with his current defense, King Maul wouldn't be able to do anything to him within 100 moves, but the Devil Race's Sword King killed him with a single slash. Of course, he also knew that he relied on the silver set equipment to reach the 10th floor of the God of War Pagoda, and his attack power wasn't that strong. Seriously speaking, he was definitely the weakest among the Battle Emperors. After passing the 9th floor of the God of War Pagoda, Yichen obtained 30,000 divine coins as a reward. Next, Yichen went to the Survival Tower. Unfortunately, he didn't reach the 10th floor and was still stuck on the 9th floor. Compared to the God of War Pagoda, the Survival Tower was more of a test of one's inner qualities. External help wasn't that important. Moreover, Yichen had just reached the 10th floor of the God of War Pagoda, so he would naturally fail the Survival Tower. There's still a long way to go before the Extreme Sun Essence is perfected. I hope I can improve it in the next 4 to 5 months. The first 3 floors of the Martial Technique Pagoda were for First Revolution or Second Revolution martial arts. The 4th floor was for Third Revolution martial arts, and the effect was the same as the 3rd floor. It was 100 times more efficient than the outside world, but the fees were very high. Yichen was a high-ranking member, so the fees were half, but it still cost 500 divine coins a day, which was 15,000 divine coins a month. On the 4th floor of the Martial Technique Pagoda, Yichen set up the environment for Extreme Sun Essence cultivation and started cultivating. High-ranking members went on a hunt once a year, and Yichen's second hunt didn't have the same luck as the first time. He met 3 Battle Emperors, and the most dangerous time was when he was surrounded by 4 enemy teams. The 3 Battle Emperors were the Saber Demon King, Du Ling King, and Zack King. The Saber Demon King was a Battle Emperor from the demonic god Paradise. His saber art was very powerful, and it wasn't inferior to the Divine Saber King. Yichen exchanged over 70 moves with him before he couldn't hold on any longer and immediately escaped. The Du Ling King was a Battle Emperor from the evil god Paradise. His great spirit art was abnormally terrifying, and it could constantly absorb your energy to attack you. It could even interrupt the execution of your martial arts. In terms of combat power, he had already reached the level of a mid-level Battle Emperor. In just 4 moves, Yichen vomited blood and had to escape. If it wasn't for the silver suit that increased his energy and increased his speed, he might not have been able to escape unscathed. As for Zack King, he was a Battle Emperor from the Green Spirit Paradise. The Green Spirit Paradise was the paradise of the Green Men race. The Green Men race and the human race had similar names, but the difference was like heaven and earth. The Green Men race was tall and burly, and they didn't have any hair on their body. Their blood was also green, and the biggest difference was that they had a crocodile-like tail. Zack King wasn't considered strong, and he was much weaker than the Saber Demon King. Within 200 moves, Yichen wasn't injured at all. Of course, Yichen was more passive. After all, Yichen was only strong in defense, but his attacks weren't as good as his opponents. Furthermore, his opponent's defense was stronger than Yichen's, and Yichen's attacks were like tickles to him. During the second hunt, the Exorcist squad's total income was only a mere 150,000 Shinbi, and they didn't kill a single enemy. However, the second hunt made Yichen completely famous. Which one of the Saber Demon King, Du Ling King, and Zack King was easy to deal with? Below the Battle Emperor, even the strongest Boundary Emperor would have to flee immediately if they encountered them. They wouldn't dare to go against them at all. Evil Child King had escaped from the Battle Emperor's pursuit several times because of his speed. If he were to go against a Battle Emperor, he would be courting death. On the 4th floor of the Martial Skill Pagoda. This was a world filled with light. There were 3 suns in the sky, and each of them was like a huge fireball, emitting terrifying heat. The Extreme Sun Essence contained the profound meaning of fire, profound meaning of yang, and profound meaning of light. Under such an environment, Yichen would be able to perfect this sword art faster. The heat distorted one's vision, and everywhere one looked was distorted. Yichen floated in the sky with his eyes closed, and there was a figure practicing the sword art in his mind. 1 day passed, 2 days passed. On the 3rd day, Yichen abruptly opened his eyes, shooting out 2 beams of high-heat beams. With a roar, Yichen performed the Extreme Sun Essence for the umpteenth time. His entire body overlapped with one of the suns in the sky, and the dragon's spring sword in his hand was like a black hole, constantly devouring the essence of the sun around it. After devouring a large amount of the essence of the sun, the dragon's spring sword couldn't maintain its original color anymore, and turned into a sword of light. Even the hilt seemed to be made of light. With a swing of the sword, the world that was filled with light dimmed for a moment. In the next moment, one of the suns in the sky exploded, turning into countless fiery meteors. Extreme Sun Essence. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.